नमस्कार।
हाँ नमस्कार।
हमने कहा आपने खबर ही नहीं की, नहीं तो हम पहले आ जाते।
नहीं किसका?
अरे हवन का
खबर का नोटिस निकलवाई थी कल, हमने इनको कहा था।
अच्छा पता ही नहीं, हमें मालूम ही नहीं, तो आना जाते।
हाँ कल नोटिस निकलवाई थी उनके, मिल गए होगी, हम तो सोच रहे थे।
नहीं खबर नहीं। अच्छा
बस सबसे बढ़िया।
बस हम तो निकलने वाली थी।
अच्छा
अभी देखा निकलने लगी तो आपकी गाड़ी दिख गई तो
मैं तो था सुबह से लंच में चला गया था बीच में।
मतलब हम आके अपना कर लिए।
अभी एक वेबिनार है, उसमें आज डीएम साहब हैं, चीफ गेस्ट अंद्रे वंशी। अभी शुरू होने वाला 3 बजे। सीख लिया कितने लोग हैं? और सब बढ़िया।
और सब बढ़िया
मैडम, अभी समय है? हेलो,
you are muted ma'am, you are muted.
I am waiting for sir Anil Kumar sir and DM sir.
Still we are having 5 minutes.
Yeah, is there any instructions from information from DM sir?
Not at all till this moment. He'll be joining. I gave him reminder also.
Okay.
1 hour back.
Yeah.
And we are having 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Actually, at SPIO office is closed today, so I think they will be joining through their home itself. Anil Kumar sir and Mahavir ji.
इसका करोगे ना पासवर्ड, इसे निकालो तुम। इसमें थोड़ा ठीक से दिखता है।
हाँ
मोबाइल में थोड़ा सा।
मोबाइल तो आपकी में तो चलिए कैमरा है, हम लोगों की में तो कैमरा है नहीं। इसलिए आज तो निगम साहब आ रहे हैं। आज तो निगम साहब आ रहे हैं, ठीक है बात।
आज?
हाँ।
अच्छा।
हमारी बात है।
बीमार हो गए थे ना? बीमार थे।
हाँ छुट्टी पे थी ना, तो आज सही ज्वाइन करना था, तो आ रहे हैं रास्ते में।
अच्छा। 853-6527 7705 5431.
Good afternoon, SPA sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Yes. Director sir has joined and Venkatagiri sir has also joined, sir. We are waiting for DM sir. ಇದು ನಾ
Madam.
Yes, sir.
I just telephoned him. He didn't pick up, and I just gave him a message on WhatsApp.
Okay.
He's online. He's online at the moment.
Let us wait.
Yes, sir. Let us wait for another 5 minutes.
I got his message. 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I am in emergency. You please start. We'll join.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Then you can start it.
We can start. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So shall I start, sir?
लिखा कि some lady has suicide. तो उसमें emergency में फंस गए वो. बोले मैं join करूँगा. ठीक है.
Okay, sir. So shall I start, sir?
Yes, madam.
Yes. Good afternoon, one and all present here. the galaxy of intellectuals, Your Excellency, invited guests, renowned academicians, and dear students. We are running the most dangerous experiment in history right now, which is to see how much carbon dioxide the atmosphere can handle before there is an environmental catastrophe. Environment is no one's property to destroy. It's everyone's responsibility to protect. A nation that destroys its soils destroys itself. Forests are the lungs of our land, purifying the air and giving fresh strength to our people. What is the use of a house if you haven't got a tolerable planet to put it on? Yes, to find the answer to this question, let's move ahead. We look forward to get an exposure about what the best of the brains think about these very dynamic issues of current pandemic and technologies. Well, I, Shahnaz Ayub, shall be the host for this webinar. It's my great pleasure and the first and foremost duty on behalf of Bundelkhand Institute of Engineering and Technology, and on my own behalf, I welcome in absentia Shri Andhra Vamsi Sir, Honorable District Magistrate Jhansi, our chief guest today. Today's expert, Mr. K.S. Venkatagiri, Executive Director, CII Sohrabji Godrej Green Business Center, Hyderabad, Professor V.K. Tyagi, Director, BIT Jhansi, Dr. Anil Kumar, State Project Administrator, State Project Implementation Unit, Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Mahavir Singh Naroka, Nodal Officer, SPIU UP, all the members of SPIU team, all the members of my organizing team, and dear participants across the country from almost all states of our country who have joined through Zoom meeting platform, and all those who have joined through YouTube live streaming. I welcome you all to the 7th National Webinar on Transformations in Environmental Engineering under the National Webinar Series on Transformations in Engineering and Technologies, started from 19th September, jointly organized by our institute, BIT Jhansi, and State Project Implementation Unit, Uttar Pradesh, under Knowledge Transfer Series. I ensure that this webinar will be profitable and the next few hours will be enjoyable and enriched with experience for every one of you, and will create some beautiful memories with knowledge and experience sharing by our expert and eminent guests. It is rightly said, things end, but memories last forever. Before proceeding further, as said correctly, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, and become more, you are a leader. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. Yes, I'm talking about such a teacher and a leader of this institute, a multi-talented personality, Honorable Director Professor V.K. Tyagi Sir. Pardon me, I request all the participants to please keep mute their mics. Yeah, sorry. Professor V.K. Tyagi is director at Bundelkhand Institute of Engineering and Technology, Jhansi, since 22nd December 2016. He earned his BTech, MTech, and PhD in Chemical Technology from HBTI, now HBTU Kanpur. Professor Tyagi has delivered expert talks in many seminars. He has visited foreign countries like USA and Canada. He has attended international conferences, annual meeting, and expos at California, Chicago, Quebec, Phoenix, etc. He has served various administrative positions in the institute. He has established a center of excellence in HBTU Kanpur. Apart from his academic and administrative career, Professor Tyagi is a well-known sportsman. He has represented Uttar Pradesh State in National Aquatic Championships since 2012 to 2016 at Bhopal, Rajkot, Gulbarga, and Hyderabad. Professor Tyagi, during his tenure as Director BIT Jhansi, has done good academic and infrastructure developments in the institute. He is a multi-talented personality, continuously engaged in innovative teaching learning processes, and encourages his subordinates too. He strongly believes in the earth is what we all have in common. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. I request you, sir, to welcome the dignitaries and bless us with inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for your nice words. First of all, on behalf of the Bundelkhand Institute of Engineering and Technology, I welcome chief guest of this national webinar, Dr. Andhra Vamsi, IAS and District Magistrate, Jhansi. Unfortunately, he could not join by this time because of some emergency. He gave me a message. So I welcome him in his absentia because he is also a technical person. He did his graduation, BTech and engineering from some institution in South. And unfortunately, he is stuck up with certain important administrative assignments. I welcome the keynote speaker of today's webinar, the Executive Director, Dr. K.S. Venkatagiri from CII, who has been very kind enough to be part and parcel of this national webinar series. I welcome Dr. Anil Kumarji, State Project Administrator, who is the motivational force for continuation of this national webinar series, which basically started, which is basically a brainchild of the pandemic, because we had to switch over to certain other modes of the
sir, sorry for the late.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I welcome you.
Thank you very much.
So, for the information of all the participants, I welcome on behalf of Bundelkhand Institute of Engineering and Technology, Sri Andhra Vamsi, who is also a technical graduate. And we are lucky enough that I approached him day before yesterday, and being a technical, from the technical fraternity, he immediately accepted our invitation on a very short notice. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of the Bundelkhand Institute of Engineering and Technology from the core of my heart. I welcome the Executive Director of the CII, who is the keynote speaker of today's webinar, which has been started on the transformations in engineering and technology. For the knowledge of all the participants who have joined this webinar, I tell you that we started this series on transformation of engineering and technology during this pandemic. And on every Saturday, normally we are holding one activity, and it is done on a particular domain of engineering and technology. We did on mechanical engineering, we did on computer science and engineering, we did on chemical engineering. Today we are doing it on the transformation in environmental engineering. I welcome Sri Anil Kumarji, who is State Project Advisor of the SPIU, who is playing key role in organizing this activity. Apart from this, his team is also playing a very important role in organizing these activities. As you all are aware, that there are a number of the issues. Migration from the rural areas to the urban areas has compelled us to think over the development which is taking place in the name of urbanization. So a lot of construction work is going on, a lot of buildings are coming up. So the topic which has been chosen for today's webinar, definitely expert will throw certain lights on the intricacies of the green buildings, which is the topic of today's webinar, that how the sustainable development, constructional development, which is a key issue in the today's development, because if we are not in a position to save the environment, on the name of the development, if we are ruining the environment, that development will be of no use. So we have to think over it, that how the energy efficient buildings, because energy conservation has become a very important issue nowadays. Globally, there are reports that lot of construction work, lot of in industries, energy conservation techniques are being followed, because energy is a very important issue. So we have to think over it, how the sustainable development can take place. If we talk about the construction point of view, from the design point of view of the building, by providing different sources of the energy and all that, how it can lead to a sustainable development. Apart from this, as you all are aware, that in the name of the development, we are having many emissions which are polluting the environment. So we have to think over that also, that how these polluting gases, green gases, emissions are having an adverse impact on the environment. So these are the certain key issues which are to be addressed by the experts. And I'm confident that the expert who is from the construction industry, he will throw the light on the different issues related to the green buildings, its impact on the environment, its impact on the health. Apart from this, the cost of these buildings are also to be addressed, as most of the people think that if we are talking about the green building, it will be a costly affair, but it is not like that. If we are doing it, keeping it in view certain design parameters, it will not be costly also. So all these issues are to be addressed. Once again, I welcome all the delegates who are attending this webinar, and I am confident that all the participants will definitely be benefited by the deliberations which will be made by the experts today. Again, and thank you to all for joining this meet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your motivation, guidance, and moral support. The way you work beyond ours. If the world had more people like you, it would be a better place. You do make a difference, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Our only limitations are those we set up in our minds. A pessimist is one who makes difficulties of his opportunities, and an optimist is one who makes opportunities of his difficulties. Yes, I'm talking about a dynamic person with whose efforts TechCube 3 project just got speed in Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Anil Kumar, State Project Administrator, State Project Implementation Unit, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Anil Kumar has rich experience in field of academic and general administration, quality assurance, regulatory compliance, accreditation, industry institute partnership, international affairs, and administration of examination, assessment, and certification. He has around 35 years of experience from industries to academic administration. Dr. Anil Kumar served Damodar Valley Corporation as superintending engineer. He has served AICT MHRD as deputy director, regional director. Before joining SPIU Uttar Pradesh as State Project Administrator in June 2018 for implementation of TechCube 3 project in Uttar Pradesh, he was Secretary and Director General in charge and Deputy Director General of Institution of Engineers. Dr. Anil Kumar is environmental expert and activist for water conservation. For his services toward water conservation and environmental awareness in the state of Jharkhand, Dr. Anil Kumar was conferred Certificate of Merit by UNESCO in 2012. Yesterday only, with his great initiative and great vision, with his efforts, SBIU UP has signed an MOU for internships and placements of engineering students with CIDC New Delhi. We are blessed to have such a distinguished personality among us in this webinar. Sir will introduce the topic of the webinar and deliver the opening remark. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sanatji. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It is indeed our great pleasure to be part of this webinar. I shall say the great webinar, which is the 7th series under Transformation of Technology series. The idea conceived by BIT Jhansi and joined by SBIU Uttar Pradesh as a part of the transfer of technology, as a part of the knowledge transfer series, who have been successfully implemented 6 already transformation of technology series on every Saturday. And this Saturday, we are discussing on a very important theme under transformation of technology in environmental engineering. We are really pleased, and rather we should say we are really blessed that the district magistrate, Sri Andhra Vamsi ji, who has been kind enough to accept our request to be part of this great webinar and to bless the webinar as a chief guest. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of the State Project Implementation Unit. This is the Technical Education Quality Improvement Program being implemented by...
Thank you very much, and sorry to interrupt.
I also welcome Sri K.S. Venkat Giri ji, Executive Director of the Green Business Center. I also welcome all the participants, the Director of BIT Jhansi on behalf of the SPI Uttar Pradesh. Sir, today we will be discussing a very important topic, that is the green building. When we talk about the green building, we talk about the issue of environment, we talk about the issue of health, and we talk about the cost. Because if the cost wise is not going to be cost effective, in days to come probably may not be accepted. So green building, in fact, is a practice of the creating structures and using processes that are environmentally responsible and resource efficient throughout a building's life cycle, from siting to design to construction to operate to maintain to renovate and to deconstruct. Any building can be a green building, whether it is a home, an office, a school, a hospital, a community center, or any other type of structure, provided it includes various features like energy efficient, water efficient, sustainable material, and design and provision of plantation, etc. However, it is important to tell that not all buildings are and need to be the same. Different countries are adopting different models of the green building. We are having the World Green Building Council, and luckily in India, with the effort of the CII, Indian Green Building Council has taken a shape, and gradually it is being accepted in the Indian green building scenario. When we talk about the green building, we talk about various aspects: the complete life cycle assessment of the building, siting where it can be located, structural design efficiency, energy efficiency. Under energy efficiency, various issues to be covered: low consumption of energy, use of renewable energy, as well as use of the solar energy. Another component is water efficiency, rainwater harvesting, groundwater recharge, wastewater treatment, recycle and reuse. Then material efficiency, environmentally preferable building materials have to be non-toxic, ethical and sustainable. Indoor environmental quality enhancement, plantation, toxic reduction, and so many. I will just quote a 2016 United Nations Environmental Program report. They say that the building sector has the potential to make energy savings of 50% or more in 2015 if, with the present trend, green building is taking shape and can achieve the target by 2015. So saving energy of 50% means you are going to reduce the world energy consumption or greenhouse emission only through one sector to the level of the 50%. Because environment is a very big factor, and almost in every sector, the issues are being addressed so that it has the positive imprint, positive footprint, and it should have the positive impact on environment. At the same time, the emission of greenhouse can be reduced to the extent possible. So this encouraging report of UNEP of 2016, in the world, the green buildings are to be rated. Various countries have their own models. There is a LEED model, there is a Energy Star model. There is a green globe being followed in USA in some areas. Green Star again in Australia. In India, I've already talked about that in IGBC rating system, they are taking place under the leadership of the CII. It is a big initiative, and it is gradually being accepted as a green building rating system in India. And Indian construction industries are switching over to the IGBC. So these are the very brief pictures what I wanted to give about you. And we are having the expert today, the executive director from CII, who will be handling the Green Business Center in Hyderabad, and we'll hear from him that what is the issue and how it is being taking shape in the country, and what is the future of green buildings in the country. Thank you very much. I again express my heartfelt thanks to BIT Jhansi and wish a grand success to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your cooperation and support. During this pandemic, we have conducted many webinars of national and international repute with SPIU Uttar Pradesh under your guidance. You have influenced us in such a positive way. Words cannot express our appreciation. You are truly an inspiration, sir. Thank you, sir. Stop fighting about who created the world and start fighting against the people who are trying to destroy it. He says and he believes that the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. Yes, chief guest of this webinar, Honorable District Magistrate Jhansi, Shri Andhra Vamsi sir. We feel proud to have with us our Honorable District Magistrate Jhansi. Sir, you hardly need any introduction. You have made all of us proud by your distinguished work in numerous capacities. A man of distinct vision and a fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an ideal of worship, experience, and inspiration to all of us. Sir has served as Joint Magistrate, Chief Development Officers, District Magistrate and Collector, Special Secretary, Information Technology and Electronics, Government of Uttar Pradesh, in various districts of Uttar Pradesh. He not only works in civil services, but has a close attachments to social services too. During March 2020, immediately after lockdown, traveling laborers were about to pass through Jhansi to reach to their hometowns in Uttar Pradesh. As soon as Vamsi sir received this information, he immediately formed a team and done strong patrolling near Outer Ring Road towards Mumbai Road on Raksa border. He kept informing Honorable Commissioner and other government authorities about every movement of this act and within no time created the facilities of stay and food for such 20,000 laborers. 200 roadways buses, 24 hours medical checkup for laborers, drivers, etc. Under his supervision, 1,800 buses, 48 trains have passed. Along with this, students from Kota, Rajasthan and 6,000 people of Madhya Pradesh have been dropped to their destination. Leaders are by definition change makers, that is transformers. When you are called to lead, you are called to advance, move forward and improve the situation. Yes, we have such a successful leader. The whole digital platform is vibrating and echoing his prominence. I request you, sir, to take this digital platform and fulfill our knowledge with your thoughts and have a close words of motivation with all of us here as the chief guest of this webinar, Honorable District Magistrate Shri Andhra Vamsi sir. Over to you, sir.
So thank you very much, and so nice of you. That's a very good introduction. I haven't been expecting this thing, and it seems that you've Googled a lot of stuff for me. So I do take this good opportunity, greeting all of you. A very good afternoon to all of you, especially the director, sir. And it's been my privilege that I've been invited for this webinar. And coming to the topic, there are only a few things that I have to say. There is a lot of urban agglomeration going on. As the director had mentioned, there is a lot of urbanization happening in and around, and because of the urbanization, we are foreseeing many more construction activity, and it is everlasting. It is not going to end. So the more you urbanize, is the more you get into this kind of a construction mode. That eventually leads to a lot of new projects, and new projects leading to a lot of spending of the fuel, and a lot of fuel spending leading to a lot of pollution, and it's really cyclical, and a lot of fuel spending leading to a lot of environmental degradation. That's it. So what we have to come out, what we have to design is that we should come out with a varied approach, or with a concocted approach that let us confine our urbanization first. Okay, let us demarcate the boundaries of the city. Let us demarcate the city infrastructure. Let us contain the infrastructure. If this is going to happen, then which means that the demographic pressure upon the land is going to end. If the demographic pressure upon the land is going to end, which means the entire resources, that natural resources that we are putting at stake, or entire man-made resources that we are going to build up, they will be contained. We can go for a new city, or we can go for a satellite town, or we can go for another extension, rather than entering into the city and also confining its, or else what do you say, and damaging its basic core structure. So that's why Delhi can be a practical example for that. It is getting more and more urbanized. More and more population is getting agglomerated into Delhi, which means that more and more resources had to spend, more and more demographic pressure upon the land, and more the so-called infrastructure that has been used for this particular civil components or the construction components or the fuel components, and let us switch from the non-renewable to the renewable energy resources. That is one aspect. And second aspect, let us contain our urbanization. Third aspect, we have to really go into the urban mode. There is a concept that has come into existence, which is called as rural plus urban. For example, a city like Jhansi, it is urban in nature as well as rural in nature. We can't see that kind of pollution effect here in Jhansi, but it's up to the civilization to get counseled, or it's up to the people get educated, and it's up to the people get to know about the perils of environmental degradation, because all said and done, these sustainable development goals have to be imbibed into the mindset of the people right from day one. So now let us come to the second aspect, that is the engineering aspect. We have evolved from many aspects. We have evolved from a steam engine to an electric engine so far. We started making use of coal, and now today we are using the hydel power. But it doesn't mean that we should stop here. We should be thinking of other ways of energy generation. The more and more we generate energy is the more and more we use. And the more and more we use is the more and more we generate energy. It is really cyclical in nature. In this cyclical exercise, what one should really venture out for is that the other sources of energy generation has to be always explored. And also there is a second concept involved in this. This is the minimization of the energy, the minimization of the energy levels. Because there are many people, if you really look into the public transport, for example, a lot of vehicular population is on race. A lot of two-wheeler population is on race. So that thing should be avoided, and we should get into the mode of public transport. The more into public transport, or the more into this kind of hydel power, which avoids the perils of environmental degradation again. Now let us come to the third aspect of the topic. The third aspect of the topic is the clean and green energy, and also clean and green construction projects. Many of the projects that which we are undertaking, some projects are really undertaken because they are not even serving any purpose. For example, there are certain projects in the district also where that projects are not being utilized, but the level of degradation that had been done for the use of construction of these projects, we can't get that degradation back, or we can't even upgrade the thing which we have degraded. So let us avoid those kind of projects which we are not supposed to do. An example can be quoted that the highway, which is having a bypass structure here on the Jhansi Shivpuri road, the project has been taken up without taking the consideration of the other institutions. But the level of energy that had been invested, the level of degradation that had been done, and the level of natural resources that had been depleted, we cannot get it back. So when we are going for a project, let us make a 360-degree analysis, and then only we should commence a project. Second, the project should be lasting for the next 100 to 400 years. It should not be a shortcut. Then only you waste your energy resources in such a way, or then only you invest your construction component in such a way that the project should be everlasting. It should be valid for the next 100 to 400 years, so that people should not look back. Now let us come to the fourth aspect. That is the research and development in engineering technology. I hope that we are doing enough homework in this thing, but the topics that have been researched, or the topics that have been researched and developed, they are not being put to effective use. We are still following the age-old technologies. So the research, the models, or the new latest models should always be imbibed into the civil construction component. And the same thing applies to the web components too. The web components we are much more used to, because we do get the live updates of the web components installed into our Android or iOS applications, or even our software applications. But the same thing is not being applied with respect to the civil component. Majority of the transport systems are being relied upon the old technologies itself, if you can really focus upon. Now let us come to, there is another aspect which I would like to say. The other aspect that is the development of human resource. So far, our human resource has not been put up to that extent. They are just confined to their education just for us to earn a job and mint the money. But the human resource should be evolved in such a way that they should be more oriented towards the clean and green technologies and for the sustainable development goals. And they should be imbibed with these values that, okay, yes, we should contribute our level of energy for the research and development. Last but not least, these kind of serial programs, or these kind of webinars, or these kind of spread outs through blogs or online applications, can always be a welcome sign for each and everyone across the nation that one should come out together. They should organize these kind of platforms and they should share and exchange their views. And these kind of models should be emulated in every aspect of either private or public sector life or even individual life. Such that we are here to promote the clean and green technologies. And also we are here to promote the projects which are less environment, which are more into the less environmental degradation. And last but not least, for the sustainable development goals. That's all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I wholeheartedly thank you for your inspiring, encouraging words. It is not today, but always whenever we heard you, we found your encouraging words very close to us. We wish to express our gratitude to you, sir, for being with us on this event. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time in spite of your busy schedule with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is the director over there at the webinar still live?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. For sparing time, and you really focused the. Basically, it was more like a technical talk.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm an engineering graduate, and I should be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So nice of you, sir.
Thank you very much. So I'll join you later because I got held up with another law and order issue here. I'll get back to you soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Every great man, every successful man, no matter what the field of endeavor, has known the magic that lies in these words. Every adversity has the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. A strong, successful man is not the victim of his environment. He creates favorable conditions. His own inherent force and energy compel things to turn out as he desires. Yes, he says, environmental pollution is an incurable disease. It can only be prevented. Mr. K.S. Venkatagiri, our expert today. Engineer K.S. Venkatagiri is the Executive Director of Confederation of Indian Industry, CII Sohrabji Godrej Green Business Center in Hyderabad. CII is 125 years old confederation established in 1895. CII Godrej Green Business Center is CII's Center of Excellence on Green Practices and Businesses, offering world-class advisory services on conservation of natural resources. Mr. Venkatagiri is leading a team of over 90 professionals who are offering advisory services to Indian industry in areas of energy management, green buildings, green companies, green products, renewable energy, and other related sectors. Mr. Venkatagiri holds a Bachelor of Technology degree in Chemical Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. After an initial stint of 6 years in cement industry, he joined CII in 1993. We are honored to listen to your insightful speech to motivate this galaxy of intellectuals, sir. Sir will talk on green buildings, better environment, better health, and lower costs. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shahnaz, Professor Taghi, and other distinguished panelists. It's my pleasure and privilege to be here and honored to speak to you about a topic which we are all very passionate about a topic which we feel should reach out to all the people of the country. And we are honored to have be a part of this program today. I have a presentation to make. Shall I? Have you given me permission to share screen, please?
Yes, sir. You are co-host. You can share your screen, sir.
Are you able to see the screen, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
It is. My voice is audible? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll go ahead. Dr. Shahnaz said I can take about an hour. Maybe I'll take about 30 to 45 minutes. Longer a person speaks, the more difficult it is to concentrate on. Maybe after I'll try to keep my talk as less as possible. Maybe as we go along, we might have a conversation or some exchange of points on the green building. I'll take about 45 minutes, ma'am. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I would like to speak to you, I think there were a lot of discussions and mention about green buildings earlier. Some beautiful statistics were also brought about by your by the director and also the state nodal officer. Thank you. I think you are all very well informed about green buildings. I'm actually preaching to a converted lot. Thank you very much. What I would like to speak to you is how green buildings contribute to better environment, better health, and lower costs. Building is a sector which is substantially growing in the country. Presently, the overall building footprint in India might be of the order of about 30 to 35 billion square feet. And this is expected to reach to about 100 billion square feet, 100 billion, about 3 to 3.5 times growth in the next 20 years, which means there is an opportunity for us to make all these new buildings which are going to come up in India to be green buildings. So there's an opportunity which this generation has got, which many of us, perhaps the previous generation, does not have. It is from this perspective I would like to present to you about the green building, how they contribute to better environment, how they contribute to better health, and of course also lead to lower costs. Having said that, this is the center where I am talking from. This building came up in the year 2004 when we started the green building movement in India. That's how it looked. My first request is whenever any of you find an opportunity, we would request you to kindly consider visiting this building. This is the place from where I am speaking to you right now. This is the Green Business Center. It's the first platinum rated. It's the one which created a movement in the entire country, and is the headquarter of the Indian Green Building Council. And we are privileged to be operating out of this building. And we also had the honor of this building inaugurated by the late President Kalam. He became a spokesperson of green buildings once he inaugurated the building in the year 2004. And wherever he went, wherever there were an opportunity to speak about green environment and green buildings, President Kalam spoke about it and became an ambassador for green buildings. And that also led to a lot of movement in the country in terms of more and more green buildings coming up. So we started the green building movement with our own building becoming a green building. Mr. Godrej was very particular that we first practice before we start preaching others. Then recently, about 1 or 2 years back, we thought, what is the green building? Green building is one which has got reduced environmental impact. Our district magistrate also spoke about it. Can we have a building which has got zero impact on the environment? That was our next objective. Can we have a building which will have zero impact on the entire environment? If that is the case, then over a period of time, the impact or damage on the environment would be lesser. Just to give you an example, the country of Puerto Rico, a very small country, they have a beautiful rule with regard to water. Any company which lets out water, the quality of water which they let out should be better than the quality of water which they take in. So what happens, all the water gets recycled as much as possible. And if water is let out, that water becomes, the overall water around becomes better and better. Over a period of time, the quality of water, the entire surroundings keeps improving. So with that objective, we thought, why not we proceed from less environment damage to zero environment damage? That's how we thought we will have a building which meets all its requirements from within. Can we have, first to start with energy, can we have a building which meets all its requirement from its own generation? So that is how the entire building was converted into a net zero building. So this is a net zero energy building. This is a small building, only about 25,000 square feet. And we have about 150 kilowatt of solar power generation, which is on top, which ensures that the entire requirement of the building is met from its own internal generation. So with this as the background, we are working towards creating more and more number of net zero buildings in the entire country. Our ultimate objective, perhaps by 2050, is to convert all the buildings in India to net zero buildings, which means the entire requirement of the buildings, each of the individual buildings, will all be met by their own energy consumption. Or if at all, they might be able to generate something extra by which they will be able to export to the grid. That's what we are looking at ultimately. These are some very unique solar PV modules. These are bifacial solar PV modules by which it's able to generate power on both sides of the module, which is more efficient. It increases the generation. So a lot of green features have been incorporated into the building. Apart from my talk, my request to Dr. Shahnaaz and others here is to get a visit done to the Green Business Center so that you can have a first-hand look of what all is being done. Maybe give us your suggestions so that we can take this forward further. So our objective of converting our own building into a net zero building is, can we have more and more number of net zero buildings in the entire country and spread the net zero movement in the entire country. Having said that, green building is not new to India. Several of these green features, if you look at some of the old buildings, are beautifully incorporated, either in terms of walls which reduce the heat infiltration into the building, or the jollies which ensure that the air which is coming inside is cooler, or you have the step wells of Rajasthan to conserve water and protect the meager water sources of the state. A tremendous amount of efforts have already been taken in India. It's not something new to India. Probably we forgot in the middle, and then we are trying to rediscover what has been forgotten. And then, just to give you a definition, what's a green building? A green building is one which conserves natural resources. It reduces the water consumption. It increases the energy efficiency, generates less amount of waste. Not only all that, but also provides healthier working spaces. It also improves the overall health of people who are working in these buildings, or who are staying in these buildings, who are passing through these buildings. But whatever type of building, the overall the environment for people who are working there is much better. Having said that, there are 5 major aspects. One is the site on which the building is located, the water they consume, the energy they consume, the material they use for construction of the building, and lastly, the indoor air quality. This building which you see here, it's an old heritage building of, some of you might recognize this, the building, Sir Homi Modi building, which is the headquarters of the Tata Group in Mumbai. Very ancient building, about 130 or 140 years old, which has been converted into a green building. Let me go into the details of each of them. Is a unique building. As I said earlier, this is not something new. It's a rediscovery of ancient Indian ethos. We all worship the Panchabhutas, the Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, and Akash. Green building concept is something very similar to that, something which protects the earth, protects water, conserves water, reduces as much of energy consumption as possible, ensures that there's a lot of air flow through the building, a lot of fresh air building, and also open to the sky so that we can get as much amount of light as possible. Having said that, some of your speakers mentioned about the green building movement in India. What started as one building in the year 2001 is right now nearly about 6,055 projects, nearly about 7.61 billion square feet of variety of building, variety of types of green buildings have coming up all over the country. And having said that, when we started looking at a green building, we also said that why not we have a methodology by which you tell whether the building is green or not green. When we first started the green building movement, some people thought we are more energy efficient, so we are a green building. Somebody said we have a lot of greenery around, so it's a green building. Somebody said we have even painted the building green, so it's a green building. So what's a green building? So there was a requirement for developing a methodology by which we say, yes, this is a green building of this level. This is extremely very important, because once you have a general word, people, everybody makes their own definitions. So we thought, why not we develop a rating methodology by which we say, exactly, this is what a green building is. Though it's a rating system, it's not very prescriptive, but some broad guidelines are there to indicate which of them is a green building, to recognize the green building, to facilitate the market to go towards more and more green building. So we initially started with the office buildings, and then we went on to anything and everything. Name any type of building. Our earlier speaker also mentioned any type of building can be made into a green building. The places where we stay, meaning our homes, places where we live, the places where we learn, our schools, colleges, and all the campuses can be made to become green. The places where we work, all our offices, could be an IT building, could be an gymnastics, could be a sports auditorium. Name anything where we work can be made into a green building. Where we play, there are auditoriums which have become green auditoriums. Where we transit, for example, the railway stations and metro stations are places where substantial number of people come in and go out. One, there's a lot of people movement. So from the point of view of COVID, there's a substantial amount of health-related issues. Apart from that, there's a lot of resource consumption in the form of material and water and energy. So can we make these places also green? And last but not the least, many of us, whenever we need some solace, we go to our temples, mosques, and churches and masjids to worship. Can we make these buildings also green? So any type of building, so with this as the background, we have nearly developed about 28 methodologies to rate any type of building. So now you have any building, there is a methodology by which it can be made green. So our objective is to have a methodology so that every type of building becomes green, and over a period of time by 2050 or 2060, every building in India becomes a green building. We have grown near a substantial number of projects have come up, offices, factories, homes, townships, transiting places like stations and metro stations, villages, cities have all become, Rajkot city has become recently a green city. Probably if our DM had been there, I would have made a request for him to make Jhansi into a green city. Any type of offices or IT parks, residential homes, costly homes, affordable housing, any type of housing can be made green. Hotels, hospitals, schools, colleges, factories, a variety of buildings in different climatic zones of the country can all become green. Having said that, I spoke about the Panchabhutas. I'll go into technical details of the green buildings. The one, of course, is a place where the building comes up, the sustainable site. We spoke about Prithvi or the earth. This is extremely important. The building should be constructed in such a way so that there is least amount of damage to the site in which it is being constructed. Least amount of waste are generated while the material is being excavated. This is one of the initial pictures of our Green Business Center. For example, if 100 tons have been excavated in this place when this building was constructed, about 100 tons of material have been reused in the entire building construction. So no waste goes out when the building was getting constructed. Second, these are all rock formations which you see here. These all we have been in existence for a certain amount of time. These rocks have been in existence for more number of years than all of our human beings. Is there a way by which this natural terrain can be protected? So what we have done is to protect as much amount of this natural terrain as possible. We have not created something new. We have just created in such a way that it merges with the nature which is available. So what we do is we don't damage the environment. We build around the environment. The second most important thing is whenever a building is constructed, there's tremendous amount of soil erosion which takes place. The topsoil gets lost. Majority of the time, the topsoil is the one which has got maximum amount of fertility. So there is a requirement for us to control the soil erosion through soil stabilization by planting trees, vegetation, both temporarily as well as permanent. Second is to control the sedimentation, creating some earth dikes, creating some fencing so that the silt doesn't go out of the building framework, sedimentation traps so that whatever sediment that are going out gets trapped. So all these things are done so that the site is protected as you are building around the environment, and also you are protecting the topsoil, and the erosion of the soil is controlled as much as possible. Second is to create vegetation so that the maximum amount of green cover so as to promote the habitat and biodiversity. In such a cases, it is always good to preserve the existing trees and plant newer saplings which are native to that place, so that you don't put some fancy grass which consumes large amount of water and you have a lot of difficulty in protecting the newer plantations which are being put up. So you have grass, or you have material, or you have plants which are native to that place, so that it merges and it's able to sustain the climatic conditions where the building is located. The other most important point, many of our cities are hotter. In any place, when we have a meteorological prediction of the temperatures, we always find the city center is always hotter than the suburban areas of the city. What is the reason? This is called heat island effect. The heat island effect is because of the radiation which comes out of the hard surfaces, of the concrete surfaces of the buildings around. What is the way in which this heat island effect can be reduced? The heat island effect can be reduced by three methods. One method is to have high reflective paint. It's also nothing new. For example, in the ancient days, majority of us had, may I request the delegates to kindly mute, please? Yeah. The heat island effect is to use high reflective paint. We all were aware, our old houses, if you see, they are always painted white. Why are they painted white with lime? Because it had a very high reflective surface, which reduced the overall heat coming inside the building. One is to have high reflective SRI materials to cover the roof areas.
I request participants to please mute their mic.
पतला वाला लोकल में चद्दर टाइप का मिलेगा, वो लेना
I request participants to please mute their mic.
मैडम अगर वो म्यूट नहीं करते हैं तब आउट कर दीजिए.
Yes, sir. No, by
thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. High reflective paint is one by which you can reduce the heat coming inside the building. Second is to have a roof which comprises of plantation. This is a vegetation on the roof of a hospital called Kohinoor Hospital in Mumbai. Substantially reduces the heat coming inside the building. Or use some high reflective materials and vegetation together so that the overall heat ingress into the building can substantially come down. These are some ways by which you can reduce the heat coming inside the building and also reduce the overall air conditioning requirement of the building. Lastly, this is a beautiful, this is a roof. None of us can believe this is a roof. This is a roof of a building in Bangalore of about 1,500 square feet where they grow rice. The entire roof is like a small rice field of 1,500 square feet. They get about 250 kg of rice, which is grown with the help of the wastewater of the house. The house where there are about 4 people who live, the entire wastewater of the house is used to cultivate rice on top of the roof. And and they generate about 250 kgs, which of course the women who are working in the house, they get about 150 kgs and the house gets about 100 kg. There are a lot of innovative experiments by which you can reduce the overall amount of heat infiltrating into your building. These are some of the examples which I thought I would present to you. So we have spoken about the site. So whenever you construct a new building, you protect the site, you have vegetation which is native, you have a vegetation which is native, you have reduced the heat island effect by having high efficient coatings as well as some vegetation which grows on top of your roof so that the heat infiltration gets reduced. The second one, water is something which is extremely important. We all know about the 3R concept, recharge, reduce, refuse, reuse, is to enhance the water efficiency. One is, of course, vegetation is one, irrigation is one which consumes substantial amount of water. The methods of irrigation so that you are able to reduce the overall amount of water consumed, particularly in terms of drip irrigation, sprinklers, pressure regulation valves. Israel has done exceedingly well in terms of reducing the water consumption for irrigation. This is an area where a lot of green buildings have worked on to reduce the water consumption for your vegetation. The second, all futures water fixtures which we have in our building, there is an opportunity to convert all of them into water efficient fixtures. There are fixtures which are available which have got about 75 to 80% lower water consumption in comparison to whatever we have been using. Whether it's a Western closet or a tap, you have or the melon urinals. There's an opportunity to make all of them very highly efficient. All these water efficient fixtures are almost available at the same cost as a normal fixture. For example, this is the first water efficient urinal which was installed at Hyderabad in our building. This is a waterless men's urinal which was installed in the year 2004, and it is still running very well, still running extremely well. So which reduces substantially the amount of water consumption in any of the building. This somebody mentioned about the cost of green building. For example, this waterless urinal in the year 2004 costed us about 14,000 rupees because we had to import it from other countries. Right now, there are 6 manufacturers in India who are manufacturing these waterless urinals, and they are available almost at the same cost of about 5,500 to 6,000, which is comparable with any other unit. So there is an opportunity to reduce substantially the water consumption by going in for a waterless urinal. What do you think this is? This looks like a garden, but this is actually a water treatment plant. What you see here, these plants, this is called a method of treatment of wastewater called phytoremediation. Whatever wastewater which comes in, goes through the roots of the plant, the bacteria, the aerobic and anaerobic bacteria which are present in the roots of these plants, they take away the BOD and COD of the wastewater, and then make clean water available, which is used for all non-potable purposes of the building. The only thing here is it consumes certain amount of land, but you can judiciously do it, so can you reduce the overall land requirement. You can even have a phytoremediation plant on your roof. So it serves two purposes. It has a beautiful garden. In addition to that, you also have water treatment available. Absolutely no cost, and it is extremely attractive. And for any new installation, the payback period is maybe even less than 2 years. We spoke about sites, we spoke about water. Now we speak about energy efficiency. Energy is one where there's substantial amount of opportunity to save. Just to give you an example, if you are right now consuming about 100 units in any of your buildings, in your home or in your office, there is an opportunity to reduce it to at least about 60 to 70 units per 70 unit per month or per day or whatever, which was there earlier. From 100, at least about 30 to 40% is possible in an existing building. For a new building, the potential is still higher. So one of the ways in which, if you are constructing a new building, is to design the building in such a way that there is maximum amount of ventilation and minimum amount of heat infiltrating into the building, so that we are reducing the overall heat infiltration and our air conditioning load. You minimize the exposure to south and west, particularly for India. The south and west give substantial amount of heat. So reduce it as much as possible, put some trees to drive the winds in the campus, and maximum openings in north so that you have light to the building, but you have diffuse light. Minimize exposure to avoid direct heat and shaded by tree plantation. This is an example. Like we had the privilege of working with the Indian School of Business both in Hyderabad and Mohali. Beautifully, several things have been taken up so that the entire campus could be made into a green campus. We have looked at the entire campus in terms of positioning a new campus. The second is how to create a high performance envelope. You can make a wall into a wall with gaps inside through which you can stuff them insulation, so that the insulation capability of the wall increases substantially. You can have a roof garden so that the heat coming in through the building, through the roof garden can be substantially reduced, so that these envelopes or roofs are having high performance and doesn't let the heat come inside your building. You can have the porous bricks, which are of the same strength as what a normal brick would be, or aerated concrete blocks, or these are glasses which are available currently, which are double layered glass with a special gas filled in between. It lets in maximum amount of light, but doesn't let in the heat waves to come inside the building. So you can have a glass which is as good as a brick right now. The technology has gone so advanced that you can have a glass. It looks like a glass, but the glass property, it lets in only light. It doesn't let in the heat. So there's substantial amount of reduction of heat infiltrating the building, so that the overall energy efficiency of the building can substantially improve. This is a building of Director General of Police of Gulbarga, where a natural passive way of cooling has been taken up. See, for example, there's something called earth air tunnel and passive cooling. Earth air tunnel is there's below the earth at a distance of about 4 to 6 meters, there is a temperature of 8 to 10 degrees centigrade lower. There is an opportunity to send in air through that earth tunnel and then circulate the air before it enters into the building. So you are able to reduce your overall building temperature by about 8 degrees centigrade. With the result, your overall air conditioning load substantially comes down. This has been, for many of the new buildings, this has been incorporated, and this has been extremely successful. About 8 to 10 degrees centigrade earth air tunnels, this is possible. This has been done in many of the buildings in India. The second, many of us thought only water can be brought in through a pipe. Now we have got high reflective fiberglass material which is available, which has got nearly about 100% reflectivity. So with the result, the light which is available outside can be brought in through this sunlight harvesting pipes into the room like this. So with the result, your basement, which has to be normally lighted with an artificial light, can have a natural light available for majority of the time. This is an opportunity which is available for many of us and substantially reduce the lighting load during the daytime. So what we are looking at is reducing the air conditioning load by better envelopes, by better roofs, by reducing the energy consumption for lighting through something like the lighting pipes. And thirdly, whatever best possible we try to reduce, but whatever still is remaining can be generated through renewable energy means. Renewable energy means could be in terms of building integrated photovoltaic cells. It looks like a glass, but it also generates electricity. It lets in light, but the remaining heat is used for generating electricity. You can have some small turbines which are fixed on top of the roofs, which can generate about electricity which is required for the building. This looks like a dish, a parabolic dish, which generates hot water, and this hot water are pressurized steam, pressurized hot water, used for either for cooking of food in your canteen or for giving you air conditioning through your vapor absorption refrigeration systems. There could be some of mechanical engineers here. Vapor absorption refrigeration system use steam to create refrigeration. These are some of the examples where we are using where you are using, instead of electricity to generate air conditioning, we are using the external sunlight to generate hot water through which air conditioning is generated inside the building. So we talked about sites, we talked about water, we talked about energy. Now we are talking about the material which are used in a building. One, of course, we always generate a lot of waste, and what is the way in which we can segregate these waste? Is there a way to segregate our wet waste and dry waste and use the wet waste as much as possible to convert it into compost, and the dry waste you dispose it off in an environment-friendly manner? There are several methods which are available, which are proven, which are extremely attractive, both in terms of using a natural process as well as a mechanical process whenever loads are high. These are something that are very well known to all of us, and many of the green buildings are practicing it. At first, perhaps it might look very, very tough, but then once you create a system for it, it becomes extremely easy. It becomes part of your regular job. Maybe if it is a small building, you can convert it into organic waste and use it for your gardens and landscaping. If it is very, very large, then perhaps you can even put up a biogas plant, which the biogas generated can be enriched further and used for your kitchen or your other purposes. There's tremendous amount of opportunity to reuse the waste or convert the waste into something which is useful for us. Lastly, a lot of material gets generated, waste material gets generated during construction. There is an opportunity to facilitate this waste material into something which are of very high resources. Metal waste can be converted into something very useful. Brick waste can be used for reconstruction of the building. The steel also can be used for construction, can be given to some secondary steel industry. Wood waste also can be potentially used. I have some examples. I have a large number of examples. Maybe later I'll share the entire presentation with some additional slide to Dr. Shahnaaz. Maybe she can circulate to all of you. One is reuse within the building as much as possible. That's an ACC building where a lot of material, when the entire building was reconstructed, a lot of building material which are generated as waste was reused in the entire building. So no waste was allowed to go out of the building. Reusing of salvaged material. This is something which has been done extensively in many of the building material with the increased recycled content. Local material or regional material and wood-based matter. All this conversion could be possible. These are some of the areas where a waste material on top has been converted into something which is a useful product. So CII, what we have been trying to do is, while we have been trying to use the concept of green buildings, promote the concept of green building, we are also trying to promote the concept of increasing the number of products which are made by recycling of material or produced by recycle of material called green product. And we are also certifying some of them so that more and more material which is green and which is recycled is available for the entire country. Lastly, many of us, possibly many of us would have been to movie theaters before COVID times. Many of us would have attended a lot of classes. Many of us would have attended seminars. Many a time what happens in the movie, we suddenly start getting a headache. Partly it could be because of the movie, and majority of the time, I assure you, it is because of the poor indoor air quality within the theater. the overall carbon dioxide content within the movie theater goes up. Once it goes up, you start getting a headache. If it goes up further, you have nausea. If it still further goes up, probably some of us may even faint. But we generally reach the level of headache in many of the movie theaters and even perhaps some of the conferences also. Even in a conference, if you start having a yawn or feel sleepy, one, it could be because of the poor quality of the speaker. The second, it could also be because of the increase in carbon dioxide content within the room. So one thing which the green building tries to do is to have very high quality of indoor air within a building. One, improve the air quality within the building. The materials which we use. Many times what happens when you go to a freshly painted house, many of us fall sick. Many of us fall sick whenever we move from one house to another. Why? Because the paints which were originally used had a lot of volatile organic matter, which is not very good for the health of the individual. It affects our nasal passage, it affects our air passage, and goes and gets deposited in our lungs, so creating an infection for many of us. Is there a way by which these materials can be made friendly to human beings so that we don't fall ill? Thirdly, many a times we are all in rooms which are not connected externally to nature. So if there is a connection to exterior, we found the productivity of people go up. One, good air quality. Second, the material which is there inside the room has got does not let out any hazardous fumes. Thirdly, connectivity in terms of the outside environment. So these are all some examples which I thought I'll share with you. Of course, this is a mechanical way of ventilating. This is a way of naturally ventilating. This is a building where I come from. I'm almost sitting next to the room here. This is naturally ventilated with jollies and so that there's tremendous amount of airflow. People-friendly material. The materials which has got very less or zero volatile organic compound. We use paints, we use adhesives, we use composite material, we use paints. All of them lead to a lot of volatile organic material. So what we are now trying to do is, in terms of green building, all the paints which are used in green buildings are water-based paints. So that the moment you go there, you don't fall sick. You don't have any issues if you are asthmatic. So this is another very important thing in the case of a green building. Very low volatile organic compound for all interior applications. We are working with all the paint manufacturers so that they make those paints which are having low volatile organic compound, particularly for interior. First, we are starting with the interior applications. Thirdly, we also spoke about daylight views. The more and more connectivity you have got with nature, the more and more is your productivity. We did a study we are still a part of the study along with Harvard Medical School in terms of how a green building improves the productivity of people and makes the people healthier. One thing which they found during the course of the study was that in all those hospitals which had a natural view to outside, a hospital room where a person who is sick, who is trying to recover within a hospital room, wherever there is a connectivity with nature, the recovery period reduces by nearly about 35 to 40%. If a patient has to stay for 10 days, if there is a connectivity to nature, the recovery from 10 days, it comes down to as low as 6 days. So connectivity to nature and daylight is something which can contribute substantially to the health and well-being of people. So this also is ensured in all the green building. Apart from, we all come to places to work, but apart from that, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, makes any of us dull. So there is an opportunity for us to create some well-being facilities, some health facilities within to improve the overall development of the people. We have said about the features of the green building. What are the benefits of incorporating all these in green building? One, a normal building consumes about 10 megawatt per million square feet. Per million square feet. The green building consumes only about 6 megawatts. So there is a drop of about 40% when we construct a green building. 40% reduction in electricity demand. There's a substantial amount of reduction in terms of air conditioning load. For example, about 10 years back or 15 years back, we used to have 1 ton of refrigeration for 150 square feet bedroom. Right now, there are buildings available which are air conditioning nearly about 800 square feet per ton of refrigeration or air conditioning. So with 1 ton, they are able to air condition about 800 square feet. So substantial amount of increase in terms of efficiency of the air conditioner as well as reduction of the energy consumption. Reduction in lighting. Earlier, because we didn't have much of natural use, we had 1.5 to 2 watts per square feet. Right now, 2 things have happened. More amount of natural light is coming from outside, and overall, the lighting efficiency has substantially gone up. So with the result, we have been able to reduce nearly to 33% of what it was earlier, the overall lighting energy consumption. Water consumption has been substantially reduced in terms of water consumption per person per day. So overall, there is a quantifiable reduction in terms of constructing a green building, in terms of energy, in terms of water, in terms of renewable energy. Everywhere there's an opportunity to save in terms of making the environment better. So ultimately, what we say is, please don't think green building is very complex. It's very extremely simple in terms of understanding and approach. But one thing is there, it is very demanding, like many of your teachers are. It is very demanding in terms of performance. And ultimately, it is very profound in terms of ultimate impact. I'll quickly close with the 2 aspects which I wanted to share with you. Many of you are teachers. Many of you are bringing up the future generation. I have 2 things to present to you and make a request to you. One is on about making of the campuses green. Campuses meaning the places where your colleges are located. Is there an opportunity to make them green? So CII thought we have brought out a methodology to make CII thought that it should be done, and we have brought out a methodology for making a campus as green. What is the benefit of a green campus? Of course, you get a green campus image. The second, there is a reduction in terms of energy and water. There is an enhanced climate, quality of life. It enhances the overall health, well-being of faculty, students, administrators, perhaps even the visitors. There are a few of the campuses which have gone in and got converted into green campuses. Indian School of Business, the earliest colleges which went in for which became green campuses. MNIT Jaipur, a fantastic example of a green campus. A lot of these campuses, nearly about 45 to 50 of them, but more numbers are required in our country. So there is when MNIT went in to try to become a green campus. An enormous amount of work was done in terms of greening it with native species. Convert everything into water efficient fixtures. Footprint was very low for development. On-site solar energy generation, 100% wastewater use. No water was allowed to go out of the building. Very efficient irrigation system. SCADA-based water monitoring. Many of the activities came in, and MNIT has become a substantially greener campus for all the benefit of all their students and faculties and all people who visit. So my request to all the teachers here, all the campus administrators here, is to get your campuses converted to green campuses, and whatever assistance you need in terms of information, we will be more than glad to do. Secondly, from the students' point of view, green buildings are growing. Green buildings have grown. They are growing at the rate of about 8%, and it is expected to grow to about 100 billion square feet in the next 20-25 years. So the industry requires substantial number of people, trained green building professionals per year. These green building professionals per year are substantially going up. We need more and more people who will help the industry to make them become green. So what does CII do? CII, through its Indian Green Building Council, have formed a lot of student chapters so that we are able to help the colleges to bring in the concept of green buildings to their students. Through periodic guest lectures, we facilitate experts from industry to come and talk to you, create some webinars, training program, so that we help you to get some education in terms of green building. Training program for professionals. We also have a program for accreditation through a program called IGBC Accredited Profession. Our objective is to have the largest pool of trained professionals in green built environment by 2025. Substantial number of professionals who are trained in green building and green built environment. What we would like to facilitate also is to bring a linkage between the academia and industry, so that whatever students you bring out, you develop and give it to the industry, they are all trained on green concepts, are immediately available to cater to the needs of the industry. So to sum up, ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure and privilege to be with you today. green buildings contribute substantially to better environment, substantially improve the health and well-being of people who work inside the green building, and also lower costs in terms of higher levels of energy efficiency, higher amount of efficiency in terms of water and also materials. So one request to all of you, whenever you are constructing some new buildings, make them green by design. It's very easy. Whenever you are doing a new building, it's very easy to make them green building by design. Personally, whenever you are constructing your home or buying a home, demand a green home. It will create more and more demand for green homes. More and more green homes will get constructed. Thirdly, whatever existing buildings are there, please consider converting them into green building. Any type of building can be converted to green building. Quite difficult. It might be difficult, but it is not impossible. It takes time, but it's definitely possible. I gave you the example of Tata's headquarters, a 125-year-old heritage building converted to a green building. The energy consumption came down by 60%. If 100 was the consumption earlier, right now the consumption in the Tata house is only about 40 units. So there's an opportunity to convert existing buildings to green buildings. College campuses also can be made into green campuses. One, you reduce the consumption and you also create an opportunity for students to learn that they have to be green and environmentally friendly in the future. And green building, as I said, is also a major career opportunity for students. I said about 100,000 jobs are going to emerge in terms of green buildings in the coming years per year. So whatever opportunity, there's an opportunity for all your students who are coming out of your colleges. It's a major career opportunity. And whatever support required from the industry, from CII, from IGBC, we would be more than glad to support you. Once again, thank you all for your patient time and listening. It's my pleasure and privilege to be with you, and look forward to discussing with you on whatever further questions you might have. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shahnaaz. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Shall we take few questions before proceeding further? Sure. Yeah, one question is there. Can we reduce water demand by landscape by lawn coating?
We have not talked about any lawn coating. We have not worked on it. But one thing which we can definitely do is to convert that lawn with some grass, which consumes substantially lesser quantity of water in comparison to what you have right now. There are grasses available which are local, which are not very difficult to maintain, which will also give you a beautiful appearance to your place, which consumes substantially less amount of water. My request is please be in touch with me separately. I'll put you on to our landscape experts. They will be more than glad to give you information on how some of the grass water consumption can be reduced.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question is from Dr. Josna Pandit. Is it possible to develop sustainable, eco-friendly, smart technology construction within the social policy framework?
Yeah, possible. Already, see, we are already moving in that direction, Dr. Josna. A good question. Definitely, within the present social framework itself, it is definitely possible. Like I said, green buildings are not meant for only high-end buildings. I give you an example of many. There are many. One example which immediately comes to my mind is the Director General of Police of Karnataka wanted to have, he was constructing a new housing colony for his policemen. When he was constructing a housing colony, he wanted to make them green by design. Without spending 1 rupee extra than what he was allowed, for the same rupees per square feet, he constructed a platinum rated green housing complex for his policemen. So it is possible. So only thing is it requires some extra efforts within the existing social framework. It is definitely possible.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's seen that some buildings are being constructed by using old and used plastic bottles being filled with sand or mud. Are those buildings considered to be green buildings?
Some of the, see, this is one point. Good that you raise this question. See, green building comprises of many things. The use of material which are recycled or recyclable is one component of the entire green building. Okay. Many a times, many of us think, we have our own interpretation of what a what a green building is. I'll just give you an example with your kind permission, Dr. Shana.
Yes.
I'll give you a very general example. I had gone to one of the cement plants some time back. As a young man then, when I went there, they said, when I went to the guest house, they said, "You are not here, sir. You are in the VIP guest house." So I felt extremely happy. I was a young man then. The company has thought to put me in VIP guest house. Happily, I went to the VIP guest house. I found VIP guest house was of lower quality than the guest house which I visited earlier. Then I settled down. Then later I asked them, the VIP guest house looks different. Then they said, "Sir, VIP here does not mean very important person. VIP here means visiting industrial personnel." So a green building, all of us have our own definition of a green building. So ma'am, which you raised, the point which you said, using recycled material of plastic or plastic bottles filled with mud, all form one component of the overall green building definition. Definitely, that can contribute to the greenness of the building, though there are some varied opinions on using plastic within the construction space, because ultimately, once when you destroy the building, the plastic will be still available as it is. Okay, you have to find a way to dispose of at that point of time. But these sort of alternatives are definitely available. For example, we are laying roads with recycled plastic. You know, that's one way of extending the life of plastic and reducing the overall environment impact. Yes, these are all some components which are definitely included.
Yeah, sir. Next question is, what are the main determinants of the implementation of pro-environmental state intervention?
Come again, ma'am.
What are the main determinants of the implementation of pro-environmental state intervention?
See, there are two things which the state can do. Pro-environment state interventions are two. See, one, like you do in your colleges, you fix a minimum pass mark. You should get 40, only then you go out and get a degree. Okay. So mandatorily, the state can say these are the things which are minimum to be done. Unless you do, you can't construct a building. That is one way to overall improve the overall environment performance of the country. The second thing which you can do is, for example, when somebody gets a high marks, 99% marks, you give him an award. So mandatorily, you ensure large number of people, the overall environment performance goes up by a large number of people, and you give an incentive to those who perform extremely well, so that the overall standards keeps on moving up. So it's a case of incentives as well as mandatory norms, so that overall performance goes up.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now, there are no questions in chat box. I will request participants if they have any question. Participants, if you have any question. So meantime, I would like to ask you one question, that we talked about the roofs where the ladies, they were planting rice, etc. And it's with wastewater. But maximum time when I see that our wastewater is containing some detergents or soapy, it's always a soapy water. So is such water useful for making this particular like green building, or maybe for crops, etc.?
Okay. In that case, what they have done, they have ensured that the water with the detergent does not go directly to the roof. There is a filtration system. Only after the filtration system that water goes in. The water which goes, majority of the water which goes in was the wastewater of the house. The wastewater of the house, the solid waste goes out. The liquid waste is collected, and then through a treatment system, it goes to the top. The detergents are filtered and then only sent to the for cultivation. I can put them on to you. It is still going on for the last 12 years or so that house is still operating. Okay. I can put you on to them. This is a small experiment. I mean, we can, what it means to demonstrate is that whatever waste you are generating within your building, there is an opportunity to reuse it. Okay. This is a broader concept.
Okay. Sir, and since you belong to the chemical engineering background, I would like to ask you one question. We get lots of wastewater from our water filters, ROs and UV filters. So like with that waste, can it be used for planting or some other purpose like green building usage, or what can we say about that particular water, because it is total waste?
See, the wastewater from the RO is one which is being extensively debated. Okay, one to some extent, if the water is of permissible levels, TDS, each of the state pollution control boards have a TDS definition of 2,000 or 4,000 for landscape watering. If this is within that limits, we can definitely use it for all landscaping. That's what majority of us are trying to do. But on the other hand, if you look at the ideal way of doing it is to recover as much as water as possible, and the remaining one should be evaporated and the salts should be sent to secure landfill. That's the ideal way of doing. There are countries such as Israel where they have very special plants which can take all type of these dissolved solids. There are the phytoremediation which I showed you is something which we got from Israel. Israel has got, they have done some extensive research where they have plants which can even absorb metals. If you have wastewater with metals, there are plants which can treat that wastewater, absorb the metals and leave out good water to the environment. So there are plants which are available, which can definitely be used for consuming the RO reject water. But RO reject water, even now, we don't have a very clear solution. Particularly for all our domestic RO reject water, we are just dumping it into the drains, which is increasing the overall TDS of the system.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something which no clear solution has emerged. But ideal solution would be to take out the water and evaporate, get the salts, and send the salts to the secure landfill. This could be the ideal situation for an industrial setup.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, sir. And one more question to members. 80% ago, we should have technology. I think it's a comment. It's not a question. That membranes wasting 80% of original water to get RO water. We should have technology which work on membrane to stop wasting. I think it's a suggestion from somebody else's on my question. Maybe. Yeah, sir. Now I would like to ask you one. There is one question. In 21st century, is it possible to build a fully autonomous energetically and ecological smart city?
Possible, man. Possible, definitely possible. Tianjin has constructed a city of about 25 square kilometers in China. What you said is a smart city, which is also environmentally highly friendly. And it is not, I won't say it's fully autonomous, but to a large extent, at least from energy point of view, it is autonomous. But from energy and water point of view, it is autonomous. Possible, definitely possible. I think is a concept which all of us have to work on.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And so one more question. It's not a technical question, just because you mentioned that point. Suppose if I want to convert, let's say we want to convert our college building as a green building, then what sort of help from CII? Suppose if we take up this project seriously, and what sort of help from CII Hyderabad will get on this? I'm not talking about financial aspect. I'm talking about like the supervision or the guidance, or to implement this project and to make it successful. Suppose if we want to collaborate our MTech students or PhD students with CII, and we'll take up this project. Then
see, one thing which we can do is, see, you have a campus. We will give you on what makes a green campus, number one. Second, we give you examples of whosoever has converted and what all they have done. These are all available as case studies. Third, when you want to convert, we give you information, you try to do it yourself, or we have developed a lot of consultants, nearly about 6,000, 7,000 people all over the country, either organizations or individuals, into green building consultants and facilitators. Okay. We would introduce you to some of them. You can make use of their services, take their help in getting it done. All technical information, we would be more than glad to help you. Definitely.
Yeah, somebody's asking on my question that is there any support from government available to convert the available buildings into green building?
See, government has done two things. Okay, it's a good question. I didn't, it's my mistake not to have spoken about it. See, initially we started this as a voluntary movement. Over a period of time, the number of green buildings grew over a period of time. Then government thought, see, when the electricity requirement comes down, the water requirement is coming down, why not give incentives for green building? Now, for example, in the state of Rajasthan, if you construct a green building of a certain level, you can construct 25% more area. Normally, if within that land, you can construct 100,000 square feet. If you construct a very high level green building, you can go up to 1,10,000 or 1,15,000 square feet. So with the result, it gave an incentive for many of the builders to go in for green building. Many, for example, Pune, I don't know about Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, I'm not very clear, but Delhi, Noida, West Bengal, Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, many of these states, some portions of Tamil Nadu, Pune, Bombay, no, not Bombay, Maharashtra, some of the concessions. So they are all giving concessions for somebody constructing green building. These are all for new buildings. For existing building also, we have been asking the government to reduce the property tax or reduce some electricity tariff for a existing building to be converted into green building. Government has still not done it, but over a period of time, it might happen because it is available for green buildings in other countries.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, Dr. Anil Kumar is also still joined with us. SPA, sir, Dr. Anil Kumar, sir, because he is also an environmental expert. So I would like to have remarks from him. Dr. Anil Kumar, sir. SPA, sir. Meantime, I would ask Director, sir. Director, sir. Director, sir. Are you there still on board? I could see you.
There.
Yes, sir. There. Yeah, so please, I would like to request you to give your remarks to this particular session.
Oh, it was really a nice session. And specifically, I'm thankful to the District Magistrate, Andre Vamsi, who gave a nice presentation. And because he was a technical person, that's why to me it appeared that he is giving a keynote address. Really, I am thankful to him for the nice presentation. I'm thankful to the expert, Dr. Venkatagiri, who really made a very good presentation. And the slides were so clear. His PPT was so clear and informative that most of the participants might have been benefited by his deliberations and the expert on the area which is of immense importance in today's life. I'm thankful to the Anil Kumarji also, who had always been associated with the BIT in organizing such activities. And I'm thankful to all the organizing team, SPIU team, Madam Sehnajayu, and all the participants, because without the participants, it would not have been a successful webinar. And once again, I'm really thankful to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Anil Kumar, sir. SPA, sir. SPA, sir, could you listen to me? Anyways, thank you, sir. I'm speechless with your systematic delivery, contents, and beautiful slides. Venkatagiri, sir, speakers who talk about what life has taught them never fail to keep the attention of their listeners. One must thank the people who made an impact in their life, and you are one of them, sir. I need to multiply thank you word 1,000 times to match it with your efforts. Thank you, sir. I wholeheartedly thank you for your inspiring and encouraging words. We wish to express our gratitude to you, sir, for being with us on this event, sparing your valuable time. Thank you, sir, being with us today and giving this wonderful presentation on the current topic, contemporary issue of green buildings. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Pleasure.
It is our collective and individual responsibility to preserve and tend to the world in which we all live. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Hence, go green, and go green. I request the participants that feedback link is shared in the chat box. I request all to please fill up this to help us improving in future sessions. I request the participants to take care to correctly spell the name and email IDs to ease the process of certification. I wholeheartedly express my gratitude to Shri Andhra Vamsi, Honorable District Magistrate Jhansi, our chief guest today. Today's expert, Mr. K.S. Venkatagiri, Executive Director, CII, Saurabhji Godrej Green Business Center, Hyderabad, for sparing their valuable time and enlightening us. I am thankful and grateful to Professor V.K. Tyagi, Honorable Director, BIT Jhansi, Dr. Anil Kumar, State Project Administrator, State Project Implementation Unit, Uttar Pradesh, for their constant support, motivation, guidance, the way they work beyond hours, and above all showing strong faith on me by giving the responsibility to organize such important webinars during this pandemic by accepting with my virtues and defects. I must express my gratitude to Dr. Mahavir Singh Naroka, Mr. Vinit Surana, Nodal Officers, SPIU Uttar Pradesh, for their constant support. I am thankful to all the members of SPIU team, all the members of my organizing team, and dear participants across the country from various states of our country. I am thankful to all those who have directly or indirectly cooperated to this webinar. I must thank Almighty for smoothing my way by removing the hurdles whatsoever in my path and making the task successful. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have shared the feedback link, sir. I will be there on board for another 5 minutes so that all the participants should get this feedback link. And thank you very much, Venkatagiri, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
you. Yes, it will be uploaded on YouTube. Some participants are asking whether it will be uploaded on YouTube. Yes, it will be uploaded on YouTube.
Ma'am, I would like to say some words if it is allowed.
Yeah, please. May I know who is talking?
Ma'am, my name is Imran Yusuf. I was your student.
Yes,
and
please
since I also work in the teaching colleges.
Yes, please.
So today I attended the seminar and I gained a lot of knowledge, and it's a really very interesting one, since I got a new topic to explore myself. And since the way they put their technology for us and the way they provide us the knowledge, definitely I'm going to work something like in this project and bring some good results also, and will present in front of you.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Imran.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. SPS sir, Dr. Anil Kumar sir. So if all of you have taken this feedback link, shall we end the meeting? Thank you so much for praising me.
हर 53 सेकंड में एक नवजात शिशु तब रो देता है। अक्सर ये बच्चे बीमार होते हैं या जया के बच्चे की तरह समय से बहुत पहले ही इस दुनिया में आ जाते हैं। इनमें से बहुत से बच्चों का जीवन बचाया जा सकता है अगर
Director sir, shall I end the meeting with your permission? I have shared the feedback link quite a lot time. Shall I end the meeting with your permission?
Yes,
Director
madam.
sir?
Yes, madam.
Yes,
Thank you very
sir.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All the participants and the speakers and the Anil Kumar ji and the keynote speaker as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
कौन खाएगा? ना